Who is Mora? The dark-skinned indigenous woman who served as a guide, a light, a teacher, midwifery, and local ritual knowledge. This is a dark copper-skinned woman, a mother to the Americas, much like Sacagawea, guided Lewis and Clark during the Louisiana Purchase. A lot of these explorers use Mora, women like her, indigenous women, to guide them through the thick jungles and forests of the Americas as they sought riches and gold. In Hebrew, it means female teacher, and in Spanish, moral means to dwell or to live somewhere, symbolically linking those who dwell in the land. Mora is also a blackberry or a mulberry, which are both indigenous to the Americas. But it came to mean like bujang, girl, a chick or lover, tu kind of vibe. Una fulanita. See, the Spaniards would take these women, indigenous American women, and they would create new casta with them and whiten them over time like they did in Europe. And after a few generations, you could get a gracias al sacol, and basically you could be excused from your blackness or tu negritude, and basically created categories like Blanco de la Tierra, which basically were people who were from like Dominican Republic and different places, and on paperwork they could be white, which would help them climb the casta system legally and have legal protections under their Spanish grandfather and an erasure of their indigenous heritage, while the original people were later classified as Negro with no African admixture. And so they started reclassifying the people to make them slaves within the casta, which allowed them to exploit them legally for their knowledge of the land, and later confusing us with the Africans, even though we're an Aboriginal group. Then the Chinos came. The Chinos came into Mexico through Acapulco, and Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, and other descendants into the Spanish territories, which is talked about in Asian Slaves in Colonial Mexico by Tatiana Cejas. These Chinos became later Indios in the casta system, which adds to the confusion and why a lot of people are still called Chino to this day. And a lot of different Western Latino American cultures, these were workers that came over. These were not Indians. They were called Indians to basically climb the casta system and to be excused of certain taxes, which could include slavery. These people came over from, Manila. They call this a Manila galleon, and they already had slaves over there. And so they put these people within the casta, adding to the confusion. And now these people call themselves the indigenous Americans, even though they are not copper colored. And even though admixture did occur between these groups, this is not an indigenous American. This is a byproduct of the mixing between Chino and Loba. And so these people later became a fabric of Mexican and New Spain culture, creating things like chamoy and mezcal, but can't explain why a lot of their indigenous art has afros, locks, and other Black American hairstyles. In this article, Playing Indian, it shows a photo of a Filipino and other people who were dressed up in American Indian regalia, even though they were immigrants, and they were playing American Indian. And so it's really interesting because you see these people being reclassified as the phenotype as the indigenous people, but aka the you don't look Indian questions. It means the dark skinned, copper colored, reddish brown people, while natives could be anybody. And with the Athabascans coming from Siberia around 2000 to 1500 years ago, their spread through the American territory brought in a new wave of genetics. And most of the explorers did not meet these people until much later on because they were located in regions like the Great Plains and the Pacific Northwest, like Alaska and Washington State. And so most of the people who are arguing our indigeneity usually had no contact with us, because even the early explorers did not see them on the records because they were in desolate areas like the desert. They were not the copper colored people or the cinnamon colored people. So no, not everybody is American Indian, but yes, anybody could be Native American. There has been a whitewashing, and basically people want to hide their faces because of the myth of a racialized national identity. These Siberian invaders who came down to the Americas chasing buffalo, you see their reliefs on our murals. And then people have the nerve to disrespect the original pyramid builders, even though we build both the colonized nations and the nations before. These are hunter-gatherers arguing with the original people, the pyramid builders, the G.